Doug and Katie, good morning. As you can see, I'm standing here right on the lower level of Parkside Apartments here, where members of Greenhouse 17 are gathering this morning for a special cause. Doug and Katie, good morning. We're just one day away from the first day of school here in Fayette County, and as the school year begins, the district is launching a new campaign this morning here at Cassidy Elementary School on Taste Creek Road. Now, with it being the first day of classes, we'll see how the metal detectors are enhancing school security. Doug and Katie, good morning. The opioid crisis is rapidly becoming a problem across the country. It's a problem that requires treatment and prevention, but more importantly, it's about living a life free from addiction. A Kenton County man was sentenced yesterday to 5 counts of wanton murder after a 2017 car crash that killed a family of 5. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer, on October 27, 2017, police say Daniel Grice was driving with a blood alcohol level of 0.089 and had THC in his system. After trying to pass in a no passing zone, they say he lost control of his Honda Pilot, slamming head on into a Honda Accord driven by Rodney Pollitt Jr. on Staffordsburg Road. According to the Enquirer, to find him guilty of wanton murder required jurors find circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life, according to instructions received before they began to deliberate. In closing arguments, Commonwealth attorney Rob Sanders says Pollitt knew during the last seconds of his life that his family was going to die and could do nothing to save them. Sanders went on to say Grice was playing Russian roulette each of the 4 times he swung his car out into the passing lane on curvy two-pane country roads. Vivian Cooper is the grandmother of Samantha Malone. She says she's glad it's over, but thinks that more justice should have been served.
I'm glad it's over, but I don't think we got justice. I thought he should have got life. I mean, he took 5 lives.
Grice will serve 20 years in prison on 5 counts, 1 for each member of that family, and will not be eligible for parole for 17 years. Travis Harmon-Smith, ABC 36 News. You wouldn't normally hear sounds like this at 6 a.m. That's because they're not your ordinary sounds. These are the sounds of a celebration for a new Chick-fil-A in Lexington.
6 a.m. yesterday morning, people started lining up and camping out for the first 100.
The first 100 were these people who camped out overnight waiting for the doors of the new Chick-fil-A on Richmond Road to open. But it gets better. People who camped overnight received a digital offer card with a year of free Chick-fil-A meals. Chick-fil-A owner and operator Roderick Long says it's an exciting process that took over a decade.
It started about 10 years ago. Chick-fil-A first started expressing interest in being on the Richmond Road corridor. We're on Harrisburg Road and Nicholasville Road, so this made a natural growth for us with everybody heading into town.
Long says the new Richmond location isn't his only location of ownership.
I have the one on Hamburg. One of the things that's unique about Chick-fil-A is most of the locations are individually owned and operated. Oh, really? So every location has an owner-operator that's different.
With Chick-fil-A opening its doors on Richmond Road, Long says the new location also helps increase the volume for customers and traffic.
All of our locations in Lexington are very high volume, high traffic, and so this fills in almost the midway point between our Nicholasville Road location and Hamburg, and so we'll alleviate some of that burden.
Reporting in Lexington, Travis Harmon-Smith, ABC 36 News. A federal judge in Frankfort dismissed Governor Matt Bevin's lawsuit on Monday. That's after a final decision ruled his proposed changes to Kentucky's Medicaid program lawful. Bevin attempted to sue 16 of his own constituents after a disagreement over a proposal that would add new work requirements to Medicaid recipients. According to the Courier-Journal, the Bevin administration filed his lawsuit in Frankfort back in February, a month after a coalition of health law advocates filed the initial challenge to Bevin's Medicaid changes in Washington. Governor Bevin's original proposal was filed in August of 2017. Then on January 11th of this year, the Federal Department of Health and Human Services approved those work requirements. In response, 3 advocacy groups filed suit against the federal government. Governor Bevin filed his countersuit in February. On June 29th, a federal judge in Washington blocked the new work requirements that were supposed to take effect on July 1st. Then just yesterday, Governor Bevin lost his countersuit against 16 Kentuckians represented in that original lawsuit. According to the Courier-Journal, under Bevin's changes, quote, able-bodied adults would have to prove they work, volunteer, or do other community engagement for at least 20 hours a week. Governor Bevin has threatened to end Kentucky's Medicaid expansion altogether if these changes don't pass. But Bevin says his changes aren't punishing people. They're giving those who need Medicaid and health benefits an opportunity.
This idea that somehow we are punishing people, somehow that this will be a detriment to people, I think is a huge, huge misunderstanding of what people need, the dignity and the respect that comes from giving people an opportunity.
A spokesperson for the governor says they will continue to pursue the case in Washington. Travis Harmon-Smith, ABC 36 News. This morning, Representative Andy Barr welcomes Congressman Sean Duffy to Lexington for a field hearing on opioid recovery and transitional housing. This is happening at the district courthouse in Lexington at 9. Congressman Duffy and Barr are assisted by 9 other experts from the 6th district, providing insight on ways to help free people from addiction. Opioid overdose has increased in Kentucky, which now has the 3rd highest opioid overdose mortality rate in the country, meaning Kentucky is on the front lines of this epidemic. The field hearing is open to the public, with the committee providing information and research on ways to help those in recovery free themselves from addiction. Congressman Barr says this will give them, quote, a unique opportunity to gain further insight into the resources needed throughout our communities. On Monday, Governor Matt Bevin's legal team filed a 100-page brief related to the case before the Supreme Court that will decide the fate of the recent pension reform bill. Senate Bill 151 was passed this spring by the General Assembly to address the Commonwealth's long-standing public pension crisis and $84 billion unfunded liability. We reported Monday that investments in Kentucky state worker pensions earned more than $1.4 billion during the 2018 fiscal year, despite Kentucky having one of the country's worst funded pension systems. As we reported on Tuesday, earlier this summer, the Franklin Circuit Court invalidated Senate Bill 151 not on the merits of the law itself, but on the basis of 2 legislative process issues. But Steve Pitt, general counsel for Governor Bevin, said, quote, we are confident that the constitutionality of Senate Bill 151 is supported by solid legal precedent. We also reported that on August 10th, Bevin filed a motion to bypass the Intermediate Court of Appeals and go directly to the Supreme Court, and was granted a transfer with an accelerated proceeding schedule on that same day. The Commonwealth now sees itself at a crossroad. The outcome of this case could be defined by insolvency, extreme taxation, or possibly a time when pension checks stop coming in the mail. During a speech on August 15th in Louisville, Governor Bevin defended the pension law at a conference with local government officials.
Do not allow yourselves to waste a moment of your time talking about such trivial nonsense when the heart of the message, the truth of the analogy, and the fiscal reality would demand action of us.
Governor Bevin also said, quote, if the High Court strikes down the pension law, it would be as disregarding of the actual law and the authority of our legislature to make laws as a lower judge who blocked it from taking effect. The Supreme Court is scheduled to hear arguments in the case on September 20th. Travis Harmon-Smith, ABC 36 News.
New this morning, the wildfires in California have caused destruction throughout the state, and help has come from all over the world, including from right here in Kentucky. Our firefighters are now set to come home this morning. ABC 36's Travis Harmon-Smith has the story.
Firefighters from the Kentucky Division of Forestry and the U.S. Forest Service returned home later this morning at 10 a.m. after a 2-week detail on the Ferguson fire that erupted in central California. That fire is on its way to containment as the Mendocino Complex fire, now the largest in California history, continues to burn. A total of 40 Kentucky firefighters on 2 20-person crews were assigned to the Ferguson fire. According to Interweb, the fire started on July 13th in the Sierra National Forest. Interweb says the fire is now 95,104 acres with 80% containment. They say a total of 1,532 personnel helped with the fire. That included 104 engines, 14 water tenders, 14 helicopters, 17 crews, 5 masticators, and 20 dozers. They say there have been 2 fatalities and 14 injuries to date. They say 10 structures were destroyed and that the Ferguson fire is now the largest fire in the Sierra National Forest's history. Interweb also says the fire closed Highway 140 East in Yosemite Valley from the entrance of the Yosemite National Park. The U.S. Forest Service says the firefighters will demobilize once they return back to Kentucky and spend time at home relaxing with their families. Travis Harmon-Smith, ABC 36 News.